Title: I had just bought a luxury house, but the day before the inauguration, my wife announced that her parents and divorced sister would be moving in with us. When I confronted her, she angrily said, "Your opinion doesn't matter. It's final." So, I made a plan. The next day, when she arrived at the house with her parents, she was shocked by what she saw. Chapter 1: The Final Straw. The keys to the new house sat heavy in my palm, polished brass with a custom keychain engraved with "Home, Finally." I had worked for this moment for over a decade. Every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, every sacrifice had led to this house. A dream turned concrete. I had planned the inauguration like a quiet celebration. Just us, our son, a bottle of wine, and a fresh start. But as I stepped into the kitchen that evening, beaming with pride, I didn't expect her cold tone. "My parents and sister will be moving in with us," she said, arms folded, as if it was a casual weather update. I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," she snapped. "It's final. They're family. They need support." "This was our home, not a shelter," I said, trying to stay calm. "They helped raise me, and my sister's divorce wasn't her fault. She needs peace. You should be grateful they'll make this place feel warmer." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My opinion, completely dismissed, like I was just some wallet with legs. That night, I stood alone in the empty master bedroom, staring at the soft lighting I had chosen months ago. My wife was in the guest room, texting her family excitedly about the move. I could hear her laughter, carefree and triumphant. She had turned my dream into a joke, but what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the deed wasn't in both our names. And that's when I started planning. Chapter 2: The Surprise She Didn't See. Coming the next morning, I was up before dawn. While she slept soundly in the guest room, probably dreaming about furniture arrangements for her entire clan, I sat in my home office reviewing a file I hadn't opened since the house was finalized. The deed. My name. Only my name. I'd bought the house before we married and never added her to the paperwork, something she'd often nagged me about, and I always promised to get around to. I never did. I spent the rest of the day making quiet preparations. I called my friend Anthony, a real estate attorney, and asked him a simple question. How fast can I sell a house with no co-owner? He chuckled. If everything's in order, give me 48 hours. Perfect. That afternoon, I returned home with a calm expression. My wife was in the living room, FaceTiming her sister. You'll love the upstairs bedroom. It overlooks the backyard, and Mom wants the front suite, of course. She barely looked up at me. I nodded, smiled politely, and said, I'll get everything ready. The next morning, move-in day, arrived with the sun high and hot. A large van pulled into the driveway. Her father barked orders, her mother clutched throw pillows, and her sister dragged 3 overstuffed suitcases to the porch. They didn't even ring the bell. They walked in like they owned the place. That was their first mistake. I greeted them all with a bright smile. Welcome. I have a surprise for everyone before we move anything in. My wife looked confused. What surprise? I pulled out a folded sheet of paper from my back pocket and handed it to her. What's this? Read it. She unfolded it and froze. It was a notice of sale agreement. The house had been sold that morning. The buyer would be arriving in 20 minutes to inspect their new home. What is this joke? She stammered, her voice rising. It's no joke, I replied, my tone flat. This isn't your house. It never was. You said my opinion didn't matter. You made your decision, so I made mine. Her parents stood in stunned silence. Her sister's jaw dropped. But where will we go? Her mother finally asked. I shrugged. I'm sure your daughter has that all figured out. After all, she said it was final. And with that, I grabbed my duffel bag, walked out to my car, and left behind the house, just in time to see the realtor's car pulling up. Chapter 3. Final means. Final. By noon, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, wife. Where are you? Wife. You sold the house? Are you insane? Wife. Call me back right now or I swear. Wife's sister. You're a monster. My luggage is on the sidewalk. Wife's mom. You'll regret this, you low-class brute. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat in my rented apartment across town, small, quiet, and mine. I took a sip of my coffee and glanced at the tiny bonsai I'd placed on the windowsill. Peace felt good. Later that evening, a final message popped up from my wife. I don't understand. Why would you do this? This is our family. For the first time, I answered. You made the rules. You told me I didn't matter. I simply stopped playing a game I wasn't invited to. She didn't reply. Meanwhile, at the now-sold luxury house, the new owners, an elderly couple, were appalled by the group loitering on their front porch with boxes and bags. The realtor politely asked my wife and her family to leave. When they refused, the police were called. According to what a neighbor later told me, her father shouted something about ownership fraud before being gently escorted off the premises. My wife tried to explain to the officer that it had been a surprise misunderstanding. But legal documents don't lie. Her name wasn't on a single one. She had gambled with arrogance and lost, spectacularly. The next day, my HR department received an anonymous tip from me. It included audio of my wife laughing about using company resources to take personal calls and arrange non-work trips for her family. I knew their compliance officer. Her job had rules. My wife had broken them. By the end of the week, she was suspended pending investigation. Chapter 4. The Collapse. 3 days after she lost the house and was suspended from her job, my wife showed up outside my apartment. Rain clung to her like guilt. Soaked, shivering, mascara streaked across her cheeks like ink bleeding from a broken pen. I just want to talk, she said, her voice hoarse. I didn't open the door. Instead, I slid the window open just enough to say one thing. Final means final. Isn't that what you told me? She looked like she'd been slapped. Her jaw trembled. I didn't mean everything. You blindsided me. I leaned on the frame, calm, collected. You thought I'd stay, that I'd cave. But the truth is, I'd already packed long before you made that announcement. She wiped her face with her sleeve. We can fix this. I shook my head. You don't even understand what broke. Then I shut the window. The news hit the following week. The HR investigation concluded she had violated multiple ethics codes, including falsifying trip records, sharing confidential information, and misusing internal funds. She wasn't just fired, she was blacklisted from her industry. As for her sister, her name had mysteriously appeared on a local gossip blog, leaking audio of her trash-talking her own clients. No one ever found out how it leaked, but she lost her biggest contract the next day. Their parents tried to call a family meeting to heal the situation. I politely declined. Then came the final act. I used a small portion of the house sale profit to donate to a charity, the very one my wife always bragged about supporting but never did. I did it in her name. Why? Because it made the headlines. Right beside the article about her being terminated for cause, I'd rewritten her legacy. Chapter 5. The final blow. A week later, I received a letter, handwritten, pages long, not from my ex-wife, from her father. You've made your point, it began, but she's still the mother of your child. Do you really want to ruin her completely? There it was. The plea for mercy. What they didn't know was, I had already stopped the destruction. I never went after her personally. I just exposed the truth. The rest? She did that to herself, but it was her next move that pushed me to finish what I'd started. 2 days later, I received an email from my lawyer. You're not going to believe this, the subject read. Attached was a custody petition. She was filing for full custody of our daughter, claiming I was unstable and vindictive. That was her mistake. She had no job, no home, and no moral standing after the scandal. I, on the other hand, had everything documented. Her infidelity, her lies, her manipulation. But I didn't just defend myself. I went nuclear. In court, I presented the judge with a detailed timeline. Screenshots, voice recordings, even a statement from her own boss describing how she attempted to use our daughter as leverage during her termination. The courtroom fell silent when I played the recording of her yelling, "He's nothing without me. I'll take the kid, the house, and make sure no one ever respects him again." The judge wasn't impressed. "Full custody granted to the father," he ruled. "Supervised visitation pending psychological evaluation." She collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I walked out of the courthouse and called a car. My daughter was waiting at home with my sister. That night, we ate takeout, played board games, and watched her favorite movie. For the first time in years, the house was quiet and peaceful. No secrets, no shouting, no manipulation. Just me, and the only family that never betrayed me. Epilogue: the man she thought was temporary. 6 months later. I stood in my backyard, coffee in hand, watching my daughter chase the dog across the lawn. Her laughter echoed through the air, pure, untainted by the toxicity that used to poison this home. We were healing. I had taken a promotion at work, bought a new car, took a few solo trips to breathe again. I didn't date. Not yet. I was too focused on rebuilding my daughter's sense of safety and my own peace. Then, one day, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a photo. It was her, my ex-wife, sitting alone on a park bench, eyes hollow, thinner than I remembered. On the back of the photo, just one sentence was written. I lost everything. No signature. No plea for help. Just acknowledgement. Or maybe regret. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked into my daughter's room, hugged her tight, and whispered, "You'll never have to wonder who really stood by you." They once called me temporary, a joke, a nobody. But I became the man who endured, the father who stayed, and the one who turned betrayal into justice. And now, I didn't need applause, just the silence of peace, and the sound of my daughter's laughter echoing through a home that finally felt whole. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you would have done in the comments below. Like the story, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.